the Saturday night game, San Francisco, Los Angeles. San Francisco 49ers are 6.5-point favorites to the Rams. Now, the last time these two played was in L.A. We were on the Rams, and the Rams just took a gigantic poop in the middle of the field. It was really unfortunate.
Yeah, and the Niners weren't particularly good offensively either.
No, but remember that game? The Rams came down and just rammed the ball down their throat on the first possession and quite literally did not move the ball the rest of the game.
Yeah.
However, they had some really bad turnovers in that game. I thought it was as bad as the Rams played. It was still a fluky result. And now the Niners are 6.5-point favorites. This game matters, but as we just talked about, it doesn't matter as much as people want it to. It matters a ton for the Rams because if they want to have a chance in hell, they've got to win this game.
And there's a significant chance that the there's a significant chance the Vikings could lose to the Bears and Packers because they've already have this year. So there's a ton of motivation for the Rams.
Yes. The Niners are pretty banged up. They have an interior that just got abused by Grady Jarrett. A guy named Aaron Donald happens to play for the Los Angeles Rams. And the Rams have been doing some things offensively that are going to help them against the Niners. They've been getting rid of the ball quickly. I looked at this up last night because I was like, Jimmy gets rid of the ball way quicker than Jared Goff does. They're not even separated by more than 5/10 of a second, 5/100ths of a second. I'm sorry. They're basically right there at 2.6 seconds, which is below the league average. Jared Goff's been getting rid of the ball way more quickly. They've cut down on the amount of pressure they're allowing now that they've got some of those problems out of there on the offensive line. These two quarterbacks are very similarly graded, and I would be very nervous if I were San Francisco right now. Our model likes this being a closer game than a touchdown, and so do I.
Yeah, I think the Rams are the side here. This is a clear one where this again reminds me of when Seattle went into San Francisco on a Monday Night Football game where you look at a lot of the handicap things. It's, okay, the total's 45. That's not particularly big for an NFL game in 2019. Familiarity breeds contempt, right? Mm-hmm. So, you have the Rams and the Niners just simply don't like each other. They're in the same division. That's going to reduce the predicted spread by a little bit. San Francisco is a smart team. They know, right? They're not dumb enough to think that they need to win this, right? They know that what they need to win the division, which is to beat Seattle, right? So last week was a look ahead, not a look ahead spot, but like a trap game. This has some trappiness to it as well. There, of course, would be motivation to eliminate the Rams, but the Rams have, the Rams have a ton of motivation to win this game. And then the kicker for me is that, okay, what are we fading? We're fading the idea that San Francisco, there was nothing fundamental about San Francisco's loss to Atlanta. There are a lot of people say, oh, that's just a blip on the radar screen. There's nothing to it here. No, there was something to it here. Atlanta murdered the middle of the San Francisco offensive line. They exposed the fact that when that defense is missing players, they're not as brilliant as before. In San Francisco, you look at since, basically the Seattle, Arizona, right? Those three games, they gave up points. They gave up a ton of points to New Orleans. They gave up some points to Atlanta, even in a game that played under most of the game when it counted the most. Atlanta made 2 drives on them in the fourth quarter. There's something fundamental about that game. So people want to overlook that, but that's, it was important. And then the Rams, right? What are people betting against? They're betting against the first matchup, which happened a long time ago prior to Jalen Ramsey. Marcus Peters was on that team, even got a pick in that game, but that was a totally different situation. And then last week against Dallas, where again, it was a classic thing. The Rams were favored in that game, got blown out. People are overreacting to that. To me, those are the 3 things that I think are going into this number, and I think they're all wrong.
And the one that you didn't mention is that I'll just hammer home again. The Jared Goff, Jimmy G separation is not wide. And you could make a really solid argument that, in fact, while people would say Jimmy G is the better quarterback, that Jared Goff is actually the better quarterback and has been dealt a really crappy hand this season, and that's why he's graded worse. But Jimmy G is the one of the 2 that is making a turnover-worthy play more often than a big-time throw. Jared Goff has climbed out of horribleness over the course of this season.
Well, can we talk a little bit about the weapons too? Because I will concede a million times that the Niners might have better weapons, but
the Rams don't have no weapons.
Read this: the last 3 weeks, Tyler Higbee, week 12, seven catches on 8 targets, 107 yards. Week 13, 7 catches on 11 targets, 116 yards. Last week against Dallas, 12 catches on 14 targets, 111 yards. Tyler Higbee is not Kittle by any stretch of the imagination, but he's playing an awful lot like him of late.
Here's the only thing I'll push back on with that is you need to stop targeting Tyler Higbee and get the ball to your receiver.
Sure, but then you look at Robert Woods has had, besides last week, has had an amazing couple of weeks.
Right, screen game. They need to push the ball downfield.
Cooper Kupp has been the one that's been the lost guy for that team. Brandon Cooks as well, but like I think the Rams receivers are better than the Niners receivers, and I'll argue that the gap between Kittle and Higbee, while big, is not enormous.
You just slacked me something that I think we should talk about right now. So we're trying to find a lock of the week that will actually hit. And you suggested that we tease Buffalo to 12.5 and San Francisco down to it -0.5 point, which I don't hate, but I am nervous about the Niners. I'm very nervous about the Niners.
Which, I mean, again,
So let me give you an option here. You tease Buffalo to 12.5, and you tease the Rams
to 12.5.
To 12.5.
I don't hate it. I don't hate it because here's.
Oh man, we are so tilted on this. It's unbelievable. Yeah. This is an absolute disaster.
Because this is more about Buffalo than anything. So we don't even need to include the San Francisco game. But I'm just throwing that out there for you.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.